I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge horror movie guy. I'm not a hacker slasher, gore fest guy. I like cheesy B movies, of course, but the Friday the 13th, the Jason movies, the Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street movies, those aren't really my jam usually. I'll sit and watch them every once in a while, though. But when you think about like the big bad guys in a lot of those horror movies, like the Freddys, the Jasons, the guy from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like you can envision those characters as people in the Mörk Borg universe, whether they're big bad people or even just playable characters. So it kind of makes sense to have a horror slasher RPG version of Mörk Borg. And that's why I think this product that we're featuring tonight is super smart, super clever. It's on Kickstarter for the next few days. I think we checked it was about 60 hours as of this broadcast. So go check it out. It's called Chainsaw. It is doing phenomenally well, and it's $54,000 in funding. It's going to be awesome. We're going to talk to Matthew, the creative mind behind Chainsaw, and we'll get a little more inside information. And if you like it, check out the link in the description below and give a little pledge while you still can. All right? Be right back. Hey everyone, welcome to Victory Condition Gaming. My name is Doug. Today on the show we have Matthew from Driftwood Archives, and we're going to talk about Chainsaw, which is a Mörk Borg system horror slasher movie RPG. It's currently on Kickstarter. Like I said, it's got 64 hours to go as of this broadcast. So go check it out. It's got some really cool art, which we'll show off here in a little bit. But in the meantime, I'd love to know if you love horror movies, and if so, what are your favorite horror movies? And maybe I'll add them to my queue so I get to watch them, when I have a spare moment, and just kind of put them on so I can get inspiration for Chainsaw here on the screen. So yeah, if you enjoy this interview, please hit that like button down below. If you are coming across the channel for the very first time, love it if you are a subscriber. Hit that subscribe button. I love featuring all sorts of awesome creators in the TTRPG space, just like Matthew, who's going to be coming on in just a second to be talking about the Chainsaw. And it's just awesome to be able to highlight these incredibly creative and smart people that are making some really slick TTRPGs in this industry. So yeah, without further ado, let's just bring on Matthew and talk a little bit about Chainsaw. Matthew, what's going on?
Hey, thank you, Doug.
Of course.
It's great to be here.
It's great to have you on. It's nice to kind of have you on the show. We've talked in person. What we met in Phoenix? Was it Phoenix?
We met in Phoenix a little bit ago, maybe last year, and then I saw you at Gen Con back, I think, last August.
Yeah, I think probably more than likely. I was briefly at Gen Con this year, but just for a few days, and then I had to fly back out. But so I didn't really get a chance to touch base with a whole lot of people that were there. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. And back when I talked to you at Phoenix Fan Fusion, we were you had mentioned that you were developing a Mörk Borg game, so it's kind of neat, fast forward up till this point and seing this awesome campaign on Kickstarter that's just $54,000 in funding. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you. It's a little surreal.
For sure. Look at this. We got Mr. Dragonbane joining us. Thank you so much. It's Mörk Borg, first little DM RPG. Says Dougie Fresh. Thank you all for joining us tonight. So Matthew, you want to introduce yourself, tell folks a little bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of give us the 2-minute sales pitch on Chainsaw for those that haven't come across the campaign yet?
Yeah, I'm Matthew Myslinski from Driftwood Archives. I am a tabletop role-playing and tabletop card game artist and graphic designer. I design games too. Been in the industry for several years now, and decided to make my first edition of my own to the industry, a horror game. So Chainsaw is a Mörk Borg based experience wrapped around horror movies and slasher franchises from like the 80s on up to modern horror movies. It's not locked to one specific subgenre, but it tends to work best with slasher movies. And especially movies that deal with franchises like the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street type of things, where you'll have one movie experience and then you think it's over, but he's not actually dead. And you can easily move into multiple sessions and create your own kind of franchise and see how many people can survive the whole thing.
I love that. And like I said, like it's one of those genres that like you don't typically think, like there's been a lot of genres of Mörk Borg games and you're like, oh yeah, that kind of, like when you're thinking like what would work really well as a Mörk Borg game, like they immediately come to mind, like Pirate Borg and Cyborg, and like, okay, yeah, that. But like a horror RPG, like it just fits. Like it wasn't one that came to my mind immediately. And then once I started seeing ads for it on my Facebook scrolls, I was like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I'm so glad that. And then I realized that it was you behind it, and I was like, oh my god. I know, Matthew. I didn't realize that that was the project that we'd been talking about a while ago. So,
and I didn't want to give it away the first time I met you. I didn't want to spill all the beans right at once. But,
sure.
Yeah, it was cooking all since then.
That's awesome. That's been almost a couple of years then that you've been working on this for a while.
The idea has definitely been ruminating for a couple years. When I came to Gen Con the last time, we actually brought a card game. So I took a little detour there, but decided that it was probably better to start with a role-playing game. Less moving parts, less things. And plus I'm an RPG guy at heart. That was one of my first loves. So yeah, it just seemed natural. Like this was the right place to start. Yeah, very excited about it.
This book is very art heavy.
Yes.
Are you the primary artist on this book? I mean, because I'll put some of the illustrations on the screen for folks that are watching the broadcast. Are these all your illustrations, or do you have other people that are working on this book along with you?
That is correct. Most of the stuff in the book will be my writing, my art. A lot of the stuff on the page I drew, except for one. We got a sketch from John Tedrick up there. But yeah, I wanted to. It's kind of like a two-sided thing. I wanted to challenge myself because I'm used to working on projects alone. Okay. But I wanted to see what would happen if I brought other people in and kind of diversified it up a little bit, so it's not just my voice talking about it. But it turned into a much bigger thing than even I thought it could be, because I started talking to people and it just kind of evolved from there. There's a lot of big industry guys on this Kickstarter, and I don't say that to brag. I'm very humbled that they're excited about it and they want to be on board with it. But yeah, both writers and artists.
Let's. I'm going to put a list of the writers. We got Pele from the original Mörk Borg book, which he's a personal favorite of mine. Just a great, awesome human being. You got Robert Schwab, from the designer from Shadow of the Demon Lord. Just love that. Tommy, is it Tommy?
Yeah, Tommy just won an Emmy for Obscure at the last Gen Con.
Oh yes, that's right. I did see that.
Yeah, and then he's known for Morkdod recently, and then a couple other things on there that he's been digging his teeth into the Mörk Borg community. Very cool. John was the editor for Obscure.
Oh,
as
okay.
well as being a successful author on the side for his own stuff and all the other Mörk Borg stuff that he's done. And then I'm gonna butcher his name, but Pavu, I think is how I pronounce it. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk to him after this, and hopefully I said it right. But he's known for Kortborg, as well as Kill Your Necromancer, which were both big projects last year, I believe.
They were.
But yeah, I think there's one more coming, but we haven't talked about it yet.
Okay,
we'll reveal that before the end of the campaign.
Nice. And then for artists, you've got this guy named Johan Noir. I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard of that guy. Is that is he kind of an up and coming artist? I don't.
Yeah, he's a little guy.
I don't know. Yeah. No, Johan, of course, is just kind of put this whole RPG layout and design and art like on its head over the last few years with Mörk. It started with Mörk Borg, and then it's just kind of exploded. And Johan's always awesome, and it's nice to see him collaborate with you on this.
Very excited about it.
So that's very cool. And you've got Bruce, who did Magic an artist for Magic the Gathering. That's always very cool. And D&D and The Witcher. And then John. I love how we're getting Magic the Gathering artists working in the TTRPG space and getting them involved in this, because there's some amazing Magic art that's out there, and it's awesome to see more Magic artists become part of the not just the gaming convention scene, but just like the Comic-Con scene and the convention scene in general. There's just some amazing artists out there. And then Blake, who does Pathfinder and Omen Shard. Very cool. You've got a really stellar list of guest artists and authors. So how did you, with Mörk Borg, I always love this about Mörk Borg, is that the rules are so light with Mörk Borg that it gives creators like yourself plenty of options to kind of add things to the structure of Mörk Borg and the base rules of Mörk Borg to create different rules and different mechanics to fit the setting that they want to go for. I mean, we've seen it with Pirate Borg, we've seen it with Cyborg, we've actually seen it with Vast Grim. How did you tweak or add to the Mörk Borg rules to make it fit more of a horror slasher setting and vibe for a TTRPG?
I mean, it's kind of like you already said it. Mörk Borg in general is already kind of borderline horror. It's very lethal. You're not exactly heroes, which is something kind of synonymous with slasher movies. They're not heroes. They're kind of surviving and trying to get through it. So like the first time I played Mörk Borg, this idea seemed natural. It seemed to fit there. It seemed to lend itself to it already. There are mechanics that play well with horror. Like fear and panic, things that are already staples in most horror games, but we're putting our own spin on it to bring something new to the industry. But yeah, I don't know, it seemed like something that needed to happen. Like if it wasn't going to be in this book, I was probably going to run horror stuff just for my friends and whatever. But
Sure.
The more I thought about it, the more that I spun those gears, it just kept evolving and became this thing that, wasn't just one adventure or something. It could potentially be a whole ecosystem of games and material. And I've hinted on it in the past, but there will be a third-party license for it so that other creators can create things for it.
Very cool.
And people have already asked about that and talked about different ideas. And yeah,
I love that. Are there, of course, with all the board games, there's like different types of playable characters. Do you kind of have those already set as to like your core, player, character types that you'll be playing in this game?
So we have We have two that are revealed on the Kickstarter.
Yep.
One's an athlete, and the other one is a mystic. There are several other ones. A machinist. There's a medic. There's one that we call him the lucky bastard. He's kind of like a
nice,
just very lucky about things. Horror fanatic, a rebel. But the idea behind it is to capture the idea of slasher movies of being regular people, with kind of like each person has almost like a specialty that they bring into the scenario. So like the athlete, for instance, is good at athletic things. He can hit things hard. He can run fast, depending on what thing you roll up, and play on that trope. And he brings that type of mechanic into the horror realm. But I don't want to imply that that's the only way to play. So some of the games like to play classless. Some of them like to push the classes forward first. There will be a way to make a non-class based survivor. The classes are kind of more if you need a jump start and an idea on your character. But it definitely does play well by just using generic characters informed by whatever the scenario is. So if it's like Friday the 13th, at a campground, then everybody might be teenagers or camp advisors, and they'll be based on that kind of idea. Or if it's like I'm blanking, but basically you there in each individual adventure there will be tables at the beginning that will help players be classless if they wanted to be that way and kind of immerse themselves more in that adventure. Or they could take something like the athlete and kind of mesh it into that how they see fit. So there's going to be a lot of player agency there to they can play how they want to. The GM can play things how he wants to. But yeah, and then in the future there will be more classes too that expand on that idea and bring in more tropes from different horror movies.
Nice. Mr. Dragonbane asks, why pick the title Chainsaw?
In the beginning, the name was actually Blood and Chainsaws. But I felt like it was too long. It was kind of corny. I wanted something that when you look at it on the shelf, exactly what it is. You know kind of what the setting is, and you kind of know what the genre is. And to me, Chainsaw felt like something that was, it was aggressive. It had teeth to it. It felt kind of horror. Nobody's going to pick it up thinking it's a fantasy game. It's probably not going to be a science fiction game. So hopefully the name will draw people who want to play it to it. So that was kind of the impetus behind the name. It shortened down to Chainsaw when we announced it because it just felt right.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's Chainsaw is definitely it's a lot catchier. I think it just I agree with all that you said. I think Blood and Chainsaw like that seems a little too long.
Much.
Yeah, exactly. Dungeon Militia asks, Matthew, your book is tantalizing to look at for sure. Excited to try a double dip of Mörk Borg with a more movie feel, a Left 4 Dead vibe.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead's an inspiration. Things like Dead by Daylight. It fits well with that kind of monster versus survivor type, game. And piggybacking on the solo game, that is one of the aspects to that too, that you can play as a survivor or as a killer in the solo game. But yeah, it can be a corny, campy kind of Left 4 Dead kind of vibe, or you could play it more serious, more dark and grim and scary kind of thing. It's kind of designed to take up a lot of space there and kind of be whatever you need it to be, for your players, for your table, because every table's different. Everybody loves a different type of horror.
For sure. Speaking of the solo rules, Andrew says, any chance of a small solo rules zine supplement? Well, funny you should say that, Andrew. I was just saying to Matthew before we went live that the one thing that I really, really love about this Kickstarter campaign is that every single, let me bring this up on screen, but every single pledge, I believe, I think I looked at it earlier, is that it comes with a solo play zine, at least in a digital format. So if you get a digital, you're going to get a digital way to play it solo. And we all know that solo RPG, like playing RPGs solo, is super hot right now. So this is such a smart move from y'all, from you, Matthew, to include this. What inspired the solo rule zine for this campaign?
Well, I'll be honest, a lot of the Mörk Borg games have solo games alongside them. Like the original Mörk Borg had Dark Fort, I believe was the name. And Pirate Borg had the same thing. It felt like something that needed to happen because of the community. Not everybody has a group. Not everybody has a consistent group. We've all been in role-playing game groups where people cancel and then you have nothing to do on Friday. So the solo allows you to play that way. It allows you to play if you don't have friends that are close, if you don't have a weekly game or anything like that, or if you just like the game and you want to play more of it. But yeah, like it came kind of from that idea, and as a forever DM, as a forever GM, like it felt like something that I kind of wanted to play too. When I want to be, the survivor and I can't find somebody to run the game for me, then it should potentially run it for you.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a little bit more stripped down, like most of these games are. It's a bit of a different experience than the full game, but it hopefully will give a great experience to those who still want to play without the full table.
It's super smart, and like I said, a lot of folks are really looking for any kind of solo rules. So it was really neat to see that it was not only thought of in advance for this Kickstarter, but it was like one of the first few stretch goals that you had like unlocked was like, hey, we want to put this out for the community, and it's just really smart.
We knew people would be excited about it, so we wanted to get it out there first. It's actually the most popular add-on right now, so I guess we were right. And there will be more material for it, so it won't just be that book. In the future, I'd like to do more content that supports the solo experience, especially if people like it. Sure. And we'll see where it goes.
Nice. Is there anything on this Kickstarter that people aren't going to be able to get after the fact? Like once it's all said and done, is there anything? The one thing I'm bringing up is this really awesome collector's edition hardcover that I'm assuming that it's, if you've seen, I don't know if you've seen the special edition Pirate Borg book?
Yes.
Yes. This is going to look really slick next to my special edition Pirate Borg book. I'm just going to say, because it's, got, it's like skulls on the front. I think it's a skull and crossbones on the Pirate Borg one. And then this one, a skull with a chainsaw. Just going to look really, really nice. So are people going to be able to get this after the fact, or is this kind of a Kickstarter? Like if you don't get back this on Kickstarter, you're going to miss out.
So that is only a run for Kickstarter. So there may be some left, after this. You may see some at conventions, but depending on how the Kickstarter goes and Pledge Manager afterward, there may not be any left. So if you really like it, you probably should grab it during the campaign. Most of the things will be available, but the biggest thing is the bundles with the all-in tier, the Bloodbath tier. At $125, you get over $200 worth of material. That bundle won't be available after the Kickstarter. So if you try to come in late, then you're going to have to piecemeal everything, individually, and it's going to cost a lot more. So if you like what's on here, I would recommend checking that out. All In gets everything in physical and in digital. And it's actually the only tier that gets everything in physical. Everybody else will have to add things as add-ons. So yeah, if this is your thing, that's probably something to check out.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a great savings. Actually, I was talking to Michelle before this broadcast, and I was telling her that you were coming on, and she's like, "Oh, I got to take a look at that campaign." She's like, "I've been meaning to for a while," and she's like, "Wow, 125 seems like a super good deal for all of that content." I'm like, "Yeah, it does, definitely does." So that's I think if anybody wanted to just dive right in, I think that 125 pledge is definitely the way to do it.
My main goal is I just wanted to give value to players. I wanted to give back to the community and give back to players in general, and hopefully give them a lot of value for whichever tier they decide to go in on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now the other thing that I noticed, and that is that you're collaborating with Creature Creation, who of course found Brian Colin, who's a good friend of mine, and we've had him on the show quite a few times about with Vast Grim and other projects that he's put out. You're working with him. Is he publishing this book for you? How is that collaboration? What does that collaboration entail for you with Chainsaw?
We're still working everything out, but he is the publisher of Chainsaw. He's also been giving me endless advice. I have a saying that you should always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who are better than you, who are, who have walked that road before. And that's the way to build a successful project, which I didn't do in the past. I've done projects before and it was all me and it was all based on the bubble in my head. So for this project, I wanted to surround myself with people who knew what they were doing. And luckily I met Brian and things worked out. We seemed to click, and he's an amazing guy. But yeah, I believe that a lot of the success is in part because of him. He's great at what he does, He is. Yeah. So I'm absolutely thankful and honored to be working with him.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and he again, he's the one that told me that it was your project, and I was like, oh my god, how did I not realize that it was Matthew's project? Like, it's just like it was like all these things, like kind of, he's like, hey, I don't know. He reached out to me, and we've been busy with GraniteCon and everything. He was a guest at GraniteCon, so he knew that like the last couple of weeks were really hectic for me. But he's like, hey, I'm publishing this book for this friend of mine, and he's a great guy. And he's got this really cool project. It's called Chainsaw. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I've seen ads for that. And then he says, this is you. He says, Matthew Myslinski. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I know Matthew. Like, come on, man. Like, how did I not know that this was like all put together? Like, and so it was just like, oh yeah. So I'm like, yeah, we'll make sure to have Matthew on during his campaign. And luckily we were able to have you on these last couple days. So yeah, it's awesome how, like, this community, this TTRPG community, all just kind of wants to raise each other up and kind of help support each other, help people make the cool stuff that they want to make, right?
Yeah.
And Brian's also Brian's very good at that, and I think just the Mörk Borg community in general want to see people making really cool content and really cool things with that rule set. So it doesn't surprise me that this has done so well for you.
That's one of the most exciting things about Mörk Borg, about the community. Everybody's just so, I don't know, it doesn't feel like I'm competing with all these other people. Like, everybody wants to help you. Everybody wants to lift everybody up. It's a thing that I like to say, that all ships rise. If one game does well, we all do well, because it builds the entire community as a whole. I'm not really sad seeing other people succeed here. I'm actually like super excited, because more Mörk Borg players is always better.
Yeah. And it's really cool to have the original creators of Mörk Borg like put their own touches on this. Like, it's neat to see. I don't know of any other industry where like you've got like a somebody that created something and they put the license out there that just kind of, I'm sure there are like other industries, but I just can't think of any off the top of my head. But like, you can tell that there's a lot of passion with those guys, the Pele and Johan, that they just want to see other creators make cool stuff with this, like almost like this. I know Mörk Borg is like a big thing, but it's almost like a seed of a thing that is grown into so much other stuff that I'm sure that didn't have any idea would happen, and so they're just embracing that and just supporting that as much as they can, which is
it's all
really
because
awesome.
of the first way that they designed it. They designed it with a third party in mind, with the third party license in mind, and allowed people to come in and create content from the very beginning. And I think that's one of the huge strength of the huge strengths of Mörk Borg, because if it was just them making content, we'd be sitting around waiting for them to make content every year. But it's kind of just their perspective. So with them opening it up, now we've had Vaskrim and Pirate Borg and all these other big, ideas come out of it, that I think is one of the strengths of this community here.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing.
It sure is. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in any other industry. Like I said, it's definitely very, very special.
Yeah.
So getting back to your book and your project, I think it said on the Kickstarter campaign that it's 160 pages is what you plan on having for finished product.
Yeah, it started at 160. We're up to about 166, 168, nice. Depending on where that lands. Yeah, I knew from the beginning I wanted a big book so that I could just fill it with a bunch of cool things, and it eventually evolved into the right size, and I'm really happy with where we have it there. Yeah, 166 I believe is where we're at.
That's a good size book for is it like an A5? Is that what the size
yeah,
of
yeah.
Yeah,
like Cyborg, Pirate Borg
yep.
size. Yeah, so same thing with the zines and everything else. Everything should sit on the shelf the same way, And like you said, the collector's edition was designed with the rest in mind. Like Mörk Borg had a cover much like that for their campaign. Ronin, Berserker, Pirate Borg, like you said, they all have that kind of thing. So if somebody was in at the beginning or can find those books now, those books will all sit really nicely next to each other, hopefully.
The other Borg book that I'm thinking now that we just listed all those other ones is Castaway, which is I don't know if you've Matt, it's another Matthew that from Monomyth. I could see merging Castaway with Chainsaw, where you wash up on like a deserted island and you're trying to survive, and try to just survive the island and everything. And then this becomes like a hacker slash, a horror movie as you're trying to, because some big baddie is on it. So yeah, I'm just now, and that they also did a special edition book that's black with silver embossing, which is always really cool.
It's funny that you say it, because the game is designed open in mind with that. So you could run Chainsaw's mechanics in a Mörk Borg setting for fantasy horror. You could run it in Cyborg for Jason in Space. You could run it on Castaway. You could run it on Pirate Borg.
Nice.
Whatever people want to, pull the rules out. I mean, that's not something that I came up with. It's something that, Mörk Borg is in general. It's very, pull out what you want, change what you need, for your table. So it's designed with that in mind, so you can kind of take it and mesh it with other things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Once this is all, I mean, I know that you're still kind of designing and still developing Chainsaw, but is there anything else? You've mentioned like zines and other supplements. Is there anything else you'd like to do with Chainsaw? Like, I know we've seen like Forbidden Psalm, which is like minis agnostic. I'm just thinking now. Now my brain's going like a million miles an hour. You've set it spinning, Matthew, and I'm just trying to I'm like, oh man, this would make a really cool Forbidden Psalm supplement where it's like a horror, hack and slash. You've got survivors and you've got this one bad guy that just like chases them around the board, and like a minis agnostic like scenario like Forbidden Psalm, like that would be really cool. Although probably Kevin, who does who does all those Forbidden Psalm books, probably already has this in mind or something. I don't know. He's a pretty smart guy, and he's making all sorts of cool stuff with that system too. But is there anything you'd like to see, evolve out of? Like, do you want to see like I don't know. Like I just love asking this question to Mörk Borg creators, because I get some really cool answers, because they're like, oh, I want to see like something digitally, or I want to see something. And we saw this with the Pirate Borg jam that just happened, Cabin Fever, where people like made video, like one guy made a music video about Pirate Borg, and one guy did a digital supplement for it. There was a website, and like you saw all sorts of different like creations. What would you like to see later on down the road once you've put Chainsaw out?
I'm trying to just stay focused in this right now, but I mean, there's all sorts of little ideas that keep popping up in the back. I have thought about talking to the Psalms guys to see if there's something there. But really, I just want to make sure that this goes well, and then after this, I do want to keep supporting the game with whatever the fans really want, whatever players actually want. I do want to keep supporting the solo experience, and I do want more books with more adventures, more classes, more killers, more stuff for people to use in this, especially since it's a modern setting, that is kind of before Cyborg and things like Vast Grimm, and it's after things like Mörk Borg and Pirate Borg. Like it kind of sits in its own thing. And while you can kind of convert in from all those guys, it hopefully will have a lot of content in the future, so that people don't run out of ideas, so that there's stuff to keep playing. As far as like things outside of that box, just more supplements, like alternate types of games and things, I guess we'll just have to see. But I'm pretty open to most ideas, if it's genuine and it's true to what it is. I don't want to just like sell out and just make a bunch of stuff just to make stuff. I really want to put a lot of value and impact into each product and make sure that it has to be made. It has to be, brought to life. And when it's ready, it'll be out, yeah.
So speaking of when it'll be ready and put out, what kind of timeline do you anticipate having for this book? When do you expect to have it delivered, or at least digitally to copies to send out to backers? You want to let folks know what you're looking for?
Within a couple months, I'd like to have some kind of version to show people so that we can start getting play testing. I believe that the best games are not made in a bubble with just, the developers, especially if it's just one guy. I think that the best games are built through play testing. Find out what people actually experience when they play the game. And what they're looking for when they play the game, both from GMs and from players. So I'd like to do a round of play testing and make sure that the game works how we intend it. And after that, we'll keep sending out PDFs as the game develops. Regular updates are important. But as far as the final version, and of course the PDF will come ahead of this, but the print versions of everything, all the physical stuff, should be there by Halloween next year, so that
nice.
You should be able to read through everything, set up your games, and be able to play some games during Halloween season next year. That's the big goal. Obviously, we'd like it out earlier, but that's the big goal in mind right now.
Nice. I think that'll be great to see it being played this time next year. Would be super awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you using Drive-Thru RPG for your digital deliveries at all? Is that the plan?
We're not sure. There's a couple different things that we'll explore.
Okay.
Again, I'll ask the people around me and see what their experiences are on what people like. But yeah, Drive-Thru is one route. Itch is another. Itch.io. I'm sure there's others that I don't know about, but or maybe all of them. Whatever's most effective, we'll end up going that route, I think.
Okay, excellent. If anybody has any other questions for Matthew, let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to ask them. We're kind of getting close to our closeout time, and I'm just really pleased that we were able to kind of get you on the show before this campaign takes off or ends, because we all know that last those last couple days just they seem to ramp up. So I'm really hoping that we're going to see. I know that you have one more stretch goal teased on the campaign page, So I'd love to see that get unlocked for you before this is all said and done.
We're actually only a couple hundred away from that. That'll be another full adventure zine.
Nice.
With a couple little adventures in there. And then after that, we'll probably show off another one and see if we can hit it, you know.
Very cool. Very cool. Matthew, what's your favorite? I mean, what's your favorite horror movie? I mean, you're working on this game. I didn't even ask you. I should have asked you this right out of the gate. I can't believe I didn't do it. What's your favorite, or do you have a couple favorites?
When I was a kid, the one that I saw the first time, it resonated with me. It scared me. You know, Nightmare on Elm Street. That was the one that stuck with me. Sure. I forgot I was going to bring my glove to the. I have the Freddy glove somewhere. Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street is the big one. Scream, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then in more modern times, I like The Witch, Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass. But I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard, Doug, to pick, you know, one thing out of such a, you know, varied genre. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street was the OG.
Nice. The movie that I always think of when I think of horror RPGs, the movie that kind of traumatized me as a kid, because I watched it while I was like really young, and I was at the sitters, and her older sons were watching Poltergeist. And I was sitting there, and I really wasn't supposed to be watching it, but I sat there and watched it. And man, that movie kept me up for nights. And so yeah, that's not that that's a horror, like it's just like kind of, you know, it's not quite like this movie, or it's not quite like this genre, but it definitely was a horror movie. And yeah, that kept me up. That's the one that I think pretty much did me in for horror movies for the most part, but I'll watch them every once in a while. You know,
is that why you don't like horror movies now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind them. Like, it's okay. It's like, you know, like I do like cheesy like horror movies. Like, I think those are like the B movies. Those are the ones that I love. Like, I'll sit and watch, you know, B movies all the time. Like, I grew up with Mystery Science Theater 3000, so anything that's horror, but it's kind of like on the more cheesier side.
I know you're an Alien fan, though.
That. Oh, I love Alien.
Alien fan. That fits.
Yeah,
that's horror.
That definitely. Yeah, it's horror sci-fi. I'm a big sci-fi guy, so that's where that kind of crossover is. But yeah, it definitely is that horror aspect. So I do enjoy that movie quite a bit. Yeah. Friday the 13th, I've seen, I think, a couple of the movies, seen a couple of the Jason movies. I've definitely seen, I think, most of the Scream movies. So I think that
Scream's
would be
a good one.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, it's they keep you on your seat, and I love it. You're on the edge of your seat. All right, I guess that's going to do it for this session. Matthew, if folks want to find you online, if they want to interact with you, like, do you have any type of social media that you'd like to, or a website that you'd like to send folks to check out to stay more informed with all the stuff that you've got going on?
The big one's driftwoodarchives.com. Right now it relinks to Chainsaw, the Kickstarter page, but after the campaign, we'll get the site back up and running, and that should be the best place to reach out. We will have a Discord soon, where we can start, you know, talking to the community and things. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Driftwood Archives. Yeah, I think the best place is Driftwood Archives. Get on the newsletter, and we'll let you know when there's new stuff. And then, of course, the upcoming Discord.
Sure. Well, almost at 55,850 backers now. We added one more during the session, which is awesome. Woo. So, folks, go check out the campaign in the description below. Let me know if you backed it in the comments, and I'm sure Matthew will thank you if you comment. Yeah, and I know that Brian will as well, because he's really excited about this game too, and being able to put this out for Matthew and get folks playing this horror Mörk Borg RPG, which I think is just super brilliant, and I'm super excited for it.
Thank you so much.
I think it's gonna be a big hit this time next year for folks. So
yeah, hopefully
that's gonna do it for this session. Again, I want to thank Matthew for coming on and giving us time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you to everybody that joined us live. And if you're watching this still and you haven't already, please hit that like button down below. It helps with the YouTube algorithms, which, are always fun to try to make sure that, we hit all those. And if you have someone that loves horror movies and loves RPGs, please feel free to share this video and this link with others, because I think that it's going to scratch that itch that a lot of people are probably looking for with an RPG, because I can't think of too many horror hack and slash movie RPGs out on the market. I think this one's going to be really, really special. So, all right. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, winning shouldn't be the only victory condition when you get to the table. We'll see you next time. Bye now.